and see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, Prabhuji. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jayaprakash Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devi Saraswati Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudire.
Tato Jayamudire.
Nashtaprayasu Abhadresu.
Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke.
Bhagavati Uttam Sloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhakti Naistiki.
Reading from third canto, title Status Quo, chapter 24, title The Renunciation of Kardamuni, and today's verse is verse number 45. Vasudeve Bhagavati
Vasudeve Bhagavati
Sarvagne Pratyagatmani
Yagatmani
Parena Bhakti Bhavena
Parena Bhakti Bhavena
Labdhatma Mukta Bandhana
Labdhatma Mukta Bandhanaha
Vasudeve Bhagavati
Vasudeve Bhagavati
Sarvagne Pratyagatmani
Sarvagne Pratyagatmani
Parena Bhakti Bhavena
Parena Bhakti Bhavena
Labdhatma Mukta Bandhana.
Labdhatma Mukta Bandhanaha.
Synonyms: Vasudeva, to Vasudev. Bhagavati, the personality of Godhead. Sarvagne, omniscient. Pratyagatmani, the supersoul within everyone. Parena, transcendental. Bhakti Bhavena, by devotional service. Labdhatma, being situated in himself. Mukta Bandhana, liberated from material bondage. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. He thus became liberated from the conditioned life and became self-situated in transcendental devotional service to the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, the omniscient supersoul within everyone. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. When one engages in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, one becomes aware that his constitutional position as an individual soul is to be eternally a servitor of the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva. Self-realization doesn't mean that because the Supreme Soul and the individual souls are both souls, they're equal in every respect. The individual soul is prone to be conditioned, and the Super Soul is never conditioned. When the conditioned soul realizes that he is subordinate to the Supreme Soul, his position is called Labdhatma, self-realization, or Mukti Bandhana, freedom from material contamination. Material contamination continues as long as one thinks that he is as good as the Supreme Lord or is equal with him. This condition is the last snare of Maya. Maya always influences the conditioned soul. Even after such meditation and speculation, if one continues to think himself one with the Supreme Lord, it is to be understood that he is still in the last snare of the spell of Maya. The word Parena is very significant. Para means transcendental, untinged by material contamination. Full consciousness that one is an eternal servant of the Lord is called Parabhakti. If one has any identification with material things and executes devotional service from the attainment of some material gains, that is Viddha Bhakti, contaminated Bhakti, one can actually become liberated by execution of Parabhakti. Another word mentioned here is Sarvagne. The super soul sitting within the heart is all cognizant. He knows I may forget my past activities due to the change of body, but because the Supreme Lord as Paramatma is sitting within me, he knows everything. Therefore, the result of my past karma or past activities is awarded to me. I may forget, but he awards me suffering or enjoyment for the misdeeds or good deeds of my past life. One should not think that he is freed from reaction because he has forgotten the actions of his past life. Reactions will take place. And what kind of reaction? That will be is judged by the super soul, the witness. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasme Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamaiham Dadasi Tva Padantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataru Vachakrapa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivash Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lachal Nivasa Nityaya Paramatmane Bhagavatrasvadra Jagannath Namo. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha. So here Kardamamuni is about to leave for hermitage, leaving Devahuti and Kapila Dev, his son. And before that, he is meeting with his son. And his son is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this context, this verse is spoken where this is actually a very, very powerful verse. This verse is quoted by a lot in terms of how the bhakti should not be contaminated. So here it's mentioned Vasudeve Bhagavati Sarvagne Pratyagatmani Parena Bhakti Bhavena Labdhatma Mukta Bandhana. So here Srila Prabhupada is taking it to a higher level by saying that when a person thinks that he has soul within himself, and soul and the super soul are qualitatively more or less the same, but because of the contamination, quantitatively, the super soul is superior. So what happens? There are certain sect of people who think as the God, as the super soul is within us, the God is within us, so we have capability of thinking qualitatively like God, so we are one and the same. So the difference between these personalities who we call Mayavadis or impersonalists and the Bhaktas or the devotees is devotees think everything about Lord is absolute. The Lord in Bhagavad Gita, his message is absolute. In Puranas, it's absolute. In Vedas, it's absolute. But the materialists or the Mayavadis, they think in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is appearing as a supreme person, but in Puranas and Vedas, there are references of activities by which you can think that you are God yourself. And that is a basic difference, because for devotees, anything on or about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolute. In whatever form, in whatever shape Lord comes, it's absolute. But depending on the situation, depending on the condition, the Mayavadis think it is relative. So that's the only difference. We think Lord is absolute irrespective of his form, his ability, and his direction to us. But Mayavadis, they think that it's all relative and we can be God, and that is a false fallacy which this verse is trying to eradicate. So when the conditioned soul realizes that he is subordinate of the super soul, because both are in our hearts, his position is called Labdhatma. But till that time, he is in Viddha Bhakti. He is thinking that, it's full of contamination, and he is still in the last snare of the spell of Maya. Last snare is a very big term. Srila Prabhupada is saying, sometimes what happens is we think we are doing meditation, we're doing devotional service, and we all have come to Krishna consciousness through different channels. There is uh, disharmony in the family, there are challenges in the job, and there is lack of happiness. So going to temple is often considered to be a good thing because there are so many problems people have and they want to get rid of. So the motivation by which you have come in may be something, but after being in Krishna consciousness for a long time, if our attachment to material contamination is not leaving us, then there is a challenge which is mentioned so beautifully in this verse, because we are in the last snare of the engulfment of Maya, where Maya is not leaving us, even if we are practicing Krishna consciousness, but still that tinge of desire, still that is tinge of, um, seeking benefits here and there, seeking that little position here and there is there. And that is really under Srila Prabhupada quotes the last snare of the spell of Maya, where Maya is totally engulfing us and we are not able to get out of the clutches of Maya. And that is what we call, what Srila Prabhupada is calling here as contaminated bhakti or Viddha bhakti, not para bhakti. So para bhakti is when we are devoid of all these material desires, contamination. So, and here, and also, Srila Prabhupada mentioned Sarvagne, because the super soul is sitting within our heart as Vasudev, and we are not recognizing that he is looking at us all the time. So let's try to go deep into the verse wherein Lord is Vasudev, he is omniscient, he is the supreme personality of Godhead, he is super soul with everyone, and he is transcendental. And by devotional service, so whether a person in Satya Yuga was doing meditation, when he is meditating on the forms of the Lord, of the Shringar of the Lord, he is actually behind the scene doing devotional service. In Treta Yuga, when there was yajna or sacrifices, he's always thinking about the Lord, doing for the pleasure of the Lord. That is nothing but bhakti. And then when deity worship in Dwapar Yuga came, he was also doing devotional service. Now, in this age of Kali, Kalotu Harikirtana, that means in this age of Kali, the only method is Harikirtana, chanting the holy name. We are still doing bhakti. So whether it is different activities done for the pleasure of the Lord, it is still bhakti. So thinking that meditation is not bhakti or doing sacrifices is not bhakti is incorrect. All these things are part and parcel of bhakti. So bhakti is a sense of loving someone with devotion. And then labdhatma, because when we become small, we think about ourselves. We are situated in ourselves. But when we deal with devotees, when we associate with devotees, when we read the scriptures, we realize that these are very insignificant, small, heinous things which we can get rid of, by which we can become mukta bandhana, by which we can be liberated. And then after that, you realize why I was hankering for this small thing. It was short lived anyway. And also, the small hankering for position or for little money or for little promotion position is a thing which gives us in that bondage. And this is the last spell of the snare of the Maya, wherein Maya is trapping us in all directions, and we are still getting sucked into. And that is where Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, says that whenever we join Krishna consciousness, there is an element of attraction because of jnana, because we have this knowledge and we think we want to get more knowledge. So we want to understand the scriptures, but we do not understand the scriptures with the intent to serve the Lord in order to get our general knowledge up, in order to get our knowledge up, because we want to become Gyani, we want to speak in front of 10, 20 people. And that is a motivation, which is why many people get to scriptures, but their intent is not to serve the Supreme, but the intent is to learn so that they can do some, they can spew some mantras, and that will make them powerful. jnana, karmadi. Karmadi means with desire. With so much of desire we join. We join with the right intent initially, but later we realize that I want this, I need some peace, I need some desire to be fulfilled, I want this family problem to go away, I want this to be handled. And anavritam means there is this covering means we think we are serving, but at the end of the day, these little impurities, which is influenced by jnana, karma, and these impurities, they cover us. And when this covers us, it becomes impediments in our path of bhakti, which Srila Prabhupada is saying, is so beautifully saying, as under the last snare of the spell of Maya. We are under the last snare, last trap. Snare means trap. We are under the last trap of the spell of Maya. And we are not able to give it up. We are not able to give it up. This subject matter may be technical, but for all of us as sadhakas, we have that little tinge of desire. And unless we get rid of those little tinge of desire, we will never be able to unshackle us from distractions. So whenever we are in a jail, for example, we are all covered inside, we are controlled by somebody. At the time, you may be knowing the best of the rods which blocks you, which is full of metallurgy. And there is this civil engineering concrete around you. You know everything, and you know how jail operate as a social structure, and you know everything about the jail. But if your intent is not to get out of the jail, what good is the knowledge of the civil engineering, metallurgical engineering, political science, which you know? So bhakti is essentially talking about our end game, and our end game is to go back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But instead, we are joining, we're right there. Actually, we have done so much hard work, getting up early in the morning at 4 o'clock, chanting whatever rounds you all are chanting, and then discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, the topmost subject matter, where Kardama Muni is about to leave his son, and then that last pinch or the snare of Maya is going to leave. All the impurities are going to go out, and still he is not. So it's a message to us, as Srila Prabhupada is saying, last snare of Maya is going to keep us forever. And Janma, Jnana, Karmadi, Anavratam, this covering is going to keep us intact with our attachments, and we will never be able to get out from the clutches. So if our objective is to get out of the jail, there is no need to really think about, little things about how, the jail is made of and things like that. So we are in a precarious condition, and we are temporary, and this is dukhalaya saswatam. We are temporary in a very difficult situation, and always this Maya is engulfing us, and it is engulfing because we have this attraction for jnana, attraction for karma, and there is this impurities which is always. So when sun is flowing, recently, as you know, there were Canada wildfires into New Jersey, and during the daytime there's so much of covering that we just couldn't see sun. So the sun is still there, we are still here, but the impurities are covering us, and which is why we are not able to see the beauty, the form, the shape. Our desire to serve is not lifting up, and we all are struggling in this age of Kali, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So the sun, when you think about, it gives the rays equally to all plants, but there are some plants who become very greenish with the acceptance of sun rays, and there are some other plants which never ever be able to receive that sun rays properly, wherein they could benefit each other. So the sun is still there, but our ability to receive the kripa or the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of the universe, is such insignificant that we just can't receive it. And that is where Lord is within us, as Srila Prabhupada is writing, that the example is always given. In this tree, there are two birds sitting on a stem. One bird, as you can see here, is actually eating the fruits. The other bird is looking at this bird eating the fruits. So this bird who is eating the fruits, he's enjoying, he's under the clutches of Maya, he's seeing the fruits, he's getting attracted to it. He's sometimes not perturbed, he's constantly eating. He doesn't know that there's a bird watching him. But there's a bird which is Super Soul, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is right here. He is watching that bird. And while watching the bird, he knows this bird who is eating the fruits, his past, present, and future. But the bird doesn't know that there is a super soul inside our hearts. And that is the reason why we are like this bird who are trying to eat the fruits, and we are not recognizing that Lord is within us. And whenever we have some sadness, we curse the God. And when we have some happiness, we go to temple more and more. And we do not have the consistency in our ability to serve the Supreme. And that is where it is mentioned that Krishna mentioned Sitoshno Sukha Dukkhada. That means this happiness and sadness are like winter season and summer season. If you have sadness, it is going to leave actually. It's just a matter of having some patience. It's not that devotees do not have sadness in their lives. Devotees have sadness in life. Devotees have good days in life. But the good thing about a devotee is when a devotee is equipped with the knowledge of Sitosno Sukha Dukkhada or Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, he knows that this goodness and badness which is happening to him is temporary and it's going to pass. And it's a prasad of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As long as our goods and bads we have in our life, we take it as a remnant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as prasad of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because God is watching us all the time. As you see in the stem, there are two birds sitting. Then we will never have ill feelings towards devotees or anything and everything we get. Um, a good service you get, we don't get service. It's actually a service, is a remnant, is a prasad of the Lord. As long as we have that mindset wherein we recognize that this is the prasad of the Lord and it's going to pass. Sitosnu Sukha Dukkada, winter season and summer season. Sitosnu means winter season. Ushna means summer season. It's going to pass. And as you can see, we are in September. After some time, fall will come, and all this heat and AC issues is going to go away, and we are into a subsequent session. So it will pass, and we just have to have the patience. So here, during Kapila Muni's interaction, Kapila Dev's interaction with his father Kardamuni, the last impurity or the last snare of the spell of Maya is not letting us go into bhakti with full blown. And this is what we should avoid. We should avoid the thought that we are going to have bhakti with some benefit, with certain tinge of personal benefit, and we should think that we are doing this service for the pleasure of Lord. Lord is seeing us. Lord is seeing us all the time because He's there in our heart as the super soul, and He is going to take care of us. Have complete surrender to His actions and His words through our body, mind, and words, BMW, and we will always be at doing the service of the Lord with an intent, not with any expectation, but with an intent to serve. And we just had, so many festivals which brings up our enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm must prevail, because if the enthusiasm is not uh, prevailing and it's dying, then we have to have certain ways of interacting with scriptures, hearing and speaking and glorifying the Lord. By that time, this enthusiasm, the utsaha, bhakti prevails with utsaha, and with utsaha, this will prevail all the time. And whenever this utsaha is down, then the last snare of the spell of Maya is going to catch, and that is when you get covered and you get controlled. And we just have to keep this practice, because Krishna consciousness is a practice, and soon we lose practice. Soon we stop getting up early, chanting our rounds, hearing Krishna Katha. Then the taste for Krishna Katha will become sour, and slowly, the last snare of the spell of Maya, as Srila Prabhupada is beautifully saying, is going to catch us, and is going to take us under the captivity, and we will not get the taste again, and it will go on, and then we'll meet a devotee, and devotee has no personal interest. When he says join our bhakti vriksha, hear Krishna Katha, he doesn't have personal interest. He's just saying, as long as we discuss the glories of the Lord, we all will get mutually benefited. And then you get back, and this back and forth continues, and we do not have the steadiness in our love for Krishna. And that is why all the problems comes, because we start forgetting the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And once we start forgetting, we are into our own way, and then we realize that we don't consider sadness as the prasad of the Lord anymore, and then we get into depression. And here another thing which is mentioned is Lord, who is situated in our hearts. He is super soul within everyone, as Karnadokshay Vishnu, and he is looking at us all the time. Kirodakshay Vishnu, and he's looking at us all the time. And when he is within us, we should always keep serving him, so that the clutches of Maya never engulfs us, and always we stay within a surrender mood to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that will make our life sublime and more gratifying. Because if we do not have that attitude of gratitude to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has given this life to us, who is within us all the time watching, and soon we'll get into depression. And there are other consequences, but we want to stay within the realm of this verse and discuss that the self-realization, once the impurities are removed, and we stay constantly focused on the service of the Lord, we will all go back to Godhead without any doubt. So beautiful subject matter between Kardama Muni and Kapila Dev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his son. And there is a long duel or long discussion between Kapila Dev and Devahuti, a perfect dialogue for Grihasthas, because you see, this is a Grihastha life unfolding in front of us. Kardama Muni, his wife Devahuti, who is the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, the emperor, and then they get married, and then Kapila Dev comes after 9 daughters, and then the dialogue between mom and son is going to keep us busy in the next few chapters and verses. So it's a perfect opportunity for Grihasthas to get connected and get some life lessons from these discussions. So with that, I would like to end here. Thank you so much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Hema Jagannath Pr. We'd like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day and weekend ahead. We'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Nrsimha, Jai Nrsimha, Jai Jai Nrsimha, Praladesha, Jaya Padmamukha Padmabhingam,
Ugram Veeram
Ugraveera
Mahavishnu
Mahavishnu
Jalantam
Jalantam
Sarvatam
Sarvatam Nrsimham
Nrsimham
Vishnu Bhadram Nityam Nami Ami.
Imamiyam.
Nrsimha Bhagwan ki Jai,
Jai.
Maharaj ki
Jai.
Quick announcement from disciples of Gopal Krishna Maharaj. On Sunday, you all are invited. Coming Sunday for the Vyas Puja of Gopal Krishna Maharaj in the community hall of our temple. So that's from 10 a.m. to noon. On that note, we'd like to offer our humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha
Kalpatarubhyasya
Patitanam Pavanebhaya Vaishnavebhyo Namo Govinda ki jai. Granthar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Hema Jagannath.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madhuvati Brahma.
Hare Krishna.